Bear with me, it took me quite a while to put the amount of things that we have been able to do together in the last year in one speech. So we will try to sum it up for all of you in the audience tonight and all of you watching at home as briefly as possible, but there's a lot of important things that need to be said. So to the distinguished members of the Common Council, elected officials, department heads in attendance, city employees, but most importantly, my fellow citizens watching and here in attendance tonight, I come before you to provide you with the annual State of the City address. 1 year ago, I stood here and declared that New Britain was at a crossroads. We were staring down a current deficit of $19 million and a projected deficit for the next year in excess of $30 million. At that time, I said we had to make a choice, whether we would continue down the same old path that has led us to the brink of financial collapse at the time, staring right in the face of what we considered a state takeover, or whether we would chart a new course and begin making the difficult decisions that would return the city to solid financial footing. Today, I can stand before you and confidently say that because of the actions we have taken together, the state of our city is strong and getting much stronger. Last year, I wasn't able to give this speech until almost midnight. I had my bumblebee slippers on, Suzanne remembers. But although the hour was extremely late, it didn't seem to matter because during the first 4 hours of that meeting, the government of this city took its first bold steps towards recovery, admitting we had a problem and then by doing something about it. That night, we rescinded over $19 million in authorized but unissued debt. The council also approved several transactions that would help us stabilize our finances for the remainder of the year. Tough, but we got through it, and show the outside world that New Britain was serious about turning things around. Due in large part to the courage shown that night, the city of New Britain closed those gaping deficits that we had and were able to finish the year in the black. And the 2014 audit confirms just that. Thank you. What we did 1 year ago was just the first of many tough but prudent decisions that had to be made, and we did so with the type of bipartisan support that has marked many of the city's achievements over the last year. Last March, I laid out my vision for how I would govern and outlined the direction New Britain would take under my administration. That vision consisted of 5 key principles: being fiscally responsible, of course, being transparent in all of our dealings, providing our children with the education they deserve, enabling New Britain to be truly open for business, and delivering the leadership needed to be most responsive to our residents. Being fiscally responsible meant addressing the city's financial crisis head-on, not kicking the can to future mayors and future councils. I mentioned earlier that as we began the budget process last year, our financial experts were already projecting a deficit of over $30 million for fiscal year 2015. We definitely had our work cut out for us. The 2014 budget had been shown to be woefully out of balance, so I made a promise to the citizens of New Britain that I would give them a budget that brought us back to structural balance. And structural balance, simply put, means that your expenditures match your revenues. Unfortunately, it's simple concepts like that that government at all levels has a hard time grasping. So we started from zero. We analyzed everything, spent days and nights in my conference room, but when we emerged, we had a budget that was structurally balanced. We rebuilt every department budget from the bottom up. All the department heads in attendance tonight can attest to that one. The budget I placed for this council almost a year ago was truly honest. There were no phony numbers. We didn't spend all that time analyzing data and spending trends only to warp them into numbers that suited us. It contained over $16 million in cuts from the prior year. I might remind you that $120 million of our $216 million total budget goes directly to the Board of Ed. So $16 million in cuts to funds over which we do have discretion over represents a reduction of nearly 17% of the city's overall budget. The key was to achieve those cuts and still provide an extraordinarily high level of public services to the residents of New Britain. One of the biggest cuts was a reduction of $1.2 million to the fire department. Many people scoffed and said that there was no way we could ever achieve those savings. But to their credit, the fire union worked with the city in long negotiations over the past 5 months. And tonight, the Common Council will be asked to approve a new contract that will actually net us $1.3 million in savings this fiscal year, and an additional $3 million in savings over the remainder of the contract term. I actually think Lieutenant Sanzaro summed it up best in the Herald on Saturday when he described the contract as not the best deal for firefighters, but certainly a fair deal. And I thank the fire union for ratifying that contract, even though it was by the slimmest of margins. while we're on that subject, I would like to take this opportunity to thank all of our union brothers and sisters for their willingness to be a part of solutions that will make New Britain stronger. We could not make any of these critical structural changes without them and their cooperation when it comes to the negotiation table. Unfortunately, after several years of poor budgeting, mismanagement, and overspending, $16 million in cuts just wasn't enough to restore balance, so we were forced to raise our revenues. Did we want to? Of course not. We live here. We all pay taxes here, too. But I firmly believe that the people of New Britain sent me here to fix a problem, not to sugarcoat or to downplay it. At the time, I called it the bitter medicine the city needed to get us on a course to recovery, and that's exactly how I view it today. To my fellow residents, thank you for your sacrifice you have made to restore stability and responsibility to city government. Nothing worth doing is ever easy, but when you can begin to see the results, it all seems worth it. And in January, when Standard & Poor's gave us an unprecedented 3-notch upgrade in our bond rating from BBB with a negative outlook to A with a stable outlook, I think we all had reason to feel a degree of validation about the tough decisions we've made together. When you see, as we did last week, major cities like Chicago receiving 3-notch downgrades, that courage the city has shown to end the business-as-usual approach becomes much more apparent. I'd like to say a few things about our employees. In November, I sent a memo to all of our department heads advising them that the financial picture for the next 2 fiscal years looked bleak and asked that their 2016 budget requests reflect that reality. They are in a far better position than any of us to know where to find savings and cost reductions within their own departments. They live this and do this every day. So I was quite pleased to see that many of them, most of them, heeded my message and have submitted requests that either hold the line or reduce it for the 2016 budget. We have a remarkable group of men and women who keep the city running, and I thank our department heads, most of whom are here tonight. If you're not, you're totally in trouble. Just kidding. For their leadership, but not only for their leadership, but for keeping up with me. Thanks in large part to the job you've done implementing our budget and adhering to our stricter cost controls and oversight, our finance team now believes that we are poised to finish the fiscal year in the black. But we have to keep it going for the next 3.5 months. That means Bill DeMeo, if you're here, you're not allowed in finance for the next 3.5 months. You're not allowed there until July 1st. We're making distinct progress, but we are far from being out of the woods. There's no question we're moving in the right direction. I look forward to continuing that direction when I come before this body to present my 2016 budget in April, which is still in the Board of Finance process right now. Last year, I also pledged a command focus on economic development that fits into our overall vision for the city. And today, the phones in Billy Carroll and Kenny Malinowski's offices are ringing constantly with people who are interested in checking out New Britain. On Farmington Avenue, we have a major development already underway that will bring a new gas station, a new convenience store, a new Dunkin' Donuts, a new high-quality restaurant, a new ice cream parlor, and a new senior living facility. That facility will have 90 beds, 30 of which will be dedicated specifically to Alzheimer's and dementia patients. The footprint's 125,000 square feet. It's projected to create 212 new full-time jobs and scheduled to break ground in June. At Pinnacle Business Park, Palomar will soon be opening their 150,000 square foot state-of-the-art manufacturing facility. On John Downey Drive, Admiral Machines doubling the size of their existing footprint. On Newington Avenue and the old McChristie building, Marcian Manufacturing is proceeding with a full-scale rehab of their facility, including a new roof, new windows, new offices. On Columbus Boulevard, the city has secured $2.7 million in grants to demolish the old police station and get that piece of prime real estate back on the tax rolls. New restaurants like Riley's Gourmet Hot Dogs, Willie Pep's Cafe, and Dolce's Cupcakes are turning out delicious products. And I have to sit back and think, now isn't that something different? People want to come here. I'm particularly proud that later tonight the council will hopefully vote to approve the sale for the complete restoration of the Berkowitz building on Main Street, rehabbing one of the city's most notorious eyesores and creating a beautiful new gateway to our thriving Broad Street community that will consist of mixed-use retail and a residential component. And it really wouldn't be a State of the City address if we didn't mention Costco. So I'm so pleased that after 4 years we were finally able to come together and get this project off the ground so that by the fall our residents won't have to drive to Waterbury to shop there anymore. I think I was going to say, I think I'm just going to make a pledge tonight to keep mentioning Costco in every speech from now on. Sorry, Alderman Franzo. And just for good luck, and maybe we can all get a free $4.99 chicken. And Shirley, don't worry, I didn't forget about that job either.
Hurry up, it's getting cold outside.
It's getting cold outside. Before it's getting cold outside.
These projects only represent a fraction of the entire economic development picture, but the bottom line is that we'll be spending a fair amount of time together this year cutting ribbons, to the point where I had to buy new scissors because they just went dull. They didn't work anymore. So we got a new pair of scissors and we're ready to use them. But much of this newfound interest in development is being spurred by the upcoming opening of CT Fast Track, which is on March 28th. It's no secret that New Britain has benefited from significant investment from the state and federal governments to assist in transit-oriented development around the stations and to make our downtown area more pedestrian-friendly. We have done our fair share of investing as well. And it holds true that people want to invest in cities that are investing in themselves. Later this summer, Phase 3 of our streetscape program will commence. It will fundamentally transform the downtown to have a more town square kind of feel. Central Park will be expanded and will soon become a place where people can congregate comfortably, safely, while frequenting food trucks, street vendors, and hopefully a farmer's market. In addition, we're moving forward with plans to renovate the Main Street overpass into something that truly connects downtown with Broad Street and gives us a new signature piece of architecture. No more will we have the tale of two cities that were split by a highway. It will be known as the Beehive Bridge and will celebrate New Britain's motto: industry fills the hive and enjoys the honey. By incorporating a beehive sculpture at the focal point, as well as a honeycomb effect along the bridge facade itself and honeybees at either end. Whether folks are driving on Route 72 or arriving via CT Fast Track, this project will let them know that they have arrived in the center of our city. This spring will also see the start of Phase 2 of Broad Street reconstruction project, which will include new pavement, curbing, lighting, as well as a completely redesigned Pulaski Park. Over at our sports complex, we've made key investments in 3 stadiums. Last summer, field turf was installed at Veterans Memorial Stadium along with a state-of-the-art running track. A few weeks ago, contractors began a full-scale facelift at Beehive Stadium that will completely rejuvenate the facility while making it accessible and safe for everyone. And next month, we'll be installing a new gutter system at New Britain Stadium that will finally address some of the water runoff issues that have occurred over the past few years. I suppose I can't mention New Britain Stadium without making a comment or two about the Rockettes. Surely the news that the Rockettes would be departing for greener pastures in Hartford was a tough pill to swallow, especially in the shady manner in which it was brokered and announced. But I reaffirm my pledge that regardless of what the Rockettes do, professional baseball will continue in some form in the Hardware City. Obviously, I can't go into any level of detail, but suffice to say that conversations are ongoing with multiple leagues and that there is absolutely no shortage of interest in the asset that we have. In the meantime, New Britain will continue to be the proactive and dutiful hosts we have always been as the Rockettes play their final season at Willowbrook. The upgrades at Beehive, at New Britain, and Veterans Memorial Stadiums are all critical projects to maintaining and enhancing key assets. But we have other equally important parks across the city that need some love too. At Stanley Quarter Park, we'll be constructing a paved multi-purpose loop around the pond. At A.W. Stanley Park, we're preparing for the opening of New England's first Go 8 high ropes adventure course in the spring. I expect everyone to be on that with me. And surprisingly, over at Chesley Park, I think it's time to put field turf there too. I know, she's not here. But Chesley's home to the Junior Hurricanes football program. It's one of the finest youth programs in the nation, yet the field they play on is in such poor condition that it borders on being unsafe. And both the Junior Hurricanes and the children of our East Side neighborhoods deserve a quality playing surface, and with this council's help, I'm prepared to push that project forward this year. Another project that will be accomplished in 2015 is the development and implementation of a new city website. Bringing City Hall into the 21st century is not something that can be done overnight. Believe me, I've been trying for the last year and a half. But working with our Director of Information and Technology, Adam Pokorski, and the members of the IT Commission, we will be moving more of our key services online and substantially enhancing the number of transactions that can be executed on the internet. Along those lines, our town clerk, Mark Bernacki, has already begun the Herculean task of digitizing the records in his office to make it easier for people to access critical documents without having to leave their home. We're also moving ahead with the implementation of the RAS track system for monitoring our public works vehicles, which will increase the efficiency and accountability of our employees, especially during snow operations. And speaking of new technology, we are in the final phases of the largest solarization project to ever occur in New Britain. Solar arrays have already been installed on the roofs of Smith, of Smalley, and De Loretto schools, and the array at Shuttle Meadow Reservoir is currently under construction. These systems will be energized this spring, saving the city money and reducing our carbon footprint at the same time. Continuing with that effort to achieve city savings, many of you participated on the Blue Ribbon Committee, which was a joint effort with the Board of Education and the City Council to discuss ways we can better collaborate in order to use best practices and begin to break down the wall that exists between our two buildings. It certainly wasn't easy, but it was a great first step in building relationships, and I'm proud to say we've begun acting on the committee's final recommendations, one of which is also on the agenda for tonight, to increase our city's bid threshold to match the Board of Education's, making it easier for us to purchase items in bulk and realize savings. I am particularly proud and pleased of the work we have done in the last year to address the issue of homelessness in the city of New Britain. We brought community providers, city leaders, members of the clergy, and other key people around the table and collectively developed a new plan that is action-oriented and reflects today's realities. The 10-year plan to end homelessness is now known as Building Hope Together, New Britain's permanent work plan to end homelessness. I'm very proud of the work this city continues to do to help those that are less fortunate than ourselves. And I've been quite pleased by the commitment of the members of our Building Hope Together task force to find housing, treatment, and love for anybody who needs it. This past year, we received some devastating news that due to a change in the federal formula, New Britain would no longer receive the Emergency Solutions Grant funding. We use that funding every year for our cold weather overflow shelter, which on any given night has over 30 occupied beds from December to March. Once we realized this was happening, the Building Hope Together committee had to come together and find a solution. Our friends at CMHA, Community Mental Health Affiliates, came to the table with the location. The Friendship Center pledged staff support, and a few of us were able to successfully secure over $90,000 in grants to operate it from the Connecticut Coalition to End Homelessness, the Connecticut Department of Housing, and TD Bank's charitable fund. So we thank them for their support. But that was truly a great example of how the city can work collaboratively with our community providers to get rapid and successful results. I'm also proud of our work in support of our friends over at VA Inc. To help homeless veterans and their families. With our help, VA Inc. was able to secure the final funds that were needed to finish the rehab of their building on 232 Arch Street, which will bring 18 new units of permanent supportive housing to homeless veterans. We've also gained an additional 25 units of permanent supportive housing from other sources. So that's 43 units in total that are coming to New Britain in the last year alone. And beyond helping the homeless, the city's revitalized home ownership program has successfully provided down payment assistance to 7 of New Britain's newest and proudest homeowners. I know that the members of this council share my commitment to ending homelessness and encouraging home ownership in New Britain, and I thank you for that. Restoring the pride in New Britain is another key to our vision. And as you can see, we have quite a lot to be proud of. But in addition to what we have done financially, economically, and socially, we have also had some wonderful opportunities to come together to celebrate that pride. Events like the Little Poland Festival, the Rose Garden Festival, the Great American Boom were resounding successes over the last year. Most made possible by the generosity of our local businesses and foundations. Oktoberfest was even bigger and better than the previous year, and even though Nick is taking a year off due to the streetscape construction, plans are in the works for another signature New Britain event, and I look forward to sharing those details once they're confirmed. The New Britain Museum of American Art is in the process of completing their latest expansion, which will further augment their reputation as one of the country's most prestigious art institutions. CCSU is completing work on their brand new 8-story dormitory, and they continue to expand their course offerings as well as their standing within the region's academic community. We're also blessed to have some of the finest emergency responders keeping us and our families safe. Whether it's fighting crime, fighting fire, saving lives, the men and women of the police, fire, and public safety telecommunications departments do us proud each and every day. There's never a dull moment. There's never a dull moment in our 13.2 square miles, and I speak on behalf of all of our residents, and I say thank you for keeping us safe. To be sure, there are a lot of reasons we can be proud to say that New Britain is our home, and I will continue working tirelessly to grow that list. Finally, I'm done, I swear. I would like to thank my partners in government, the men and women of the City Council. With a Republican mayor and a Democratic council majority, I think most people would assume, well, especially with the last name Stewart, I think most people would assume that the result would be gridlock, but that really couldn't be further from the truth. In fact, nearly every major accomplishment over the past year has been done on a bipartisan basis, and for that, I thank you. I've been told much of that is due to the fact that my administration provides the council with as much information as we can in advance of a vote or a meeting, and I believe strongly in transparency and providing this council with the ability to make as informed a decision as possible on any issue. To me, that's a simple matter of respect. That's not to say we haven't had our share of interesting moments, but I believe that our relationship as co-equal branches of government has been marked with civility, respect, and a desire to make our hometown better. And as long as that remains, we'll continue to do great things together. God bless you all, and God bless the city of New Britain.